Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Occult Academy podcast with myself, Nathan Lucius, and my very good friend, Steve James. Hello, Steve.
Cheers, mate.
Oh, what have you got there?
Uh, can I can I show you the bottle?
Oh, well, you can. We're not getting sponsored for this, so
I'm
just
not
in.
promoting it. Don't drink this at home, folks. I'm just
What?
I'm doing this, taking one for the team here.
Well, he's just having a bit of comfort
Exactly.
in
Southern
the south,
Comfort.
in the
Oh,
south of
that's good.
Scotland.
I recommend it with ice, mate.
Well, so this is where I let the side down. So as our channel's called the Drunken Alchemists, at least presently, I'm drinking cordial. There we go.
At
It's
least you're
it's.
sensible, but that's probably because there's a UFO keeps hovering
Mm.
above your head.
Well, this is the thing I want to announce. Clearly I'm in orbit around the not flat Earth at the minute. As you can see, well, I've got the globe behind me and no spacesuit. Who knew?
Hey, it's proof.
And it's all the proof you need. And there's a magically appearing, disappearing fourth dimensional craft behind my head, as you can see there. It is in fact, I know this is probably going to be very difficult to believe. It's Batman. That up there is Batman. He's piloting that thing. I'm not even joking. But for reasons that might become clear later, if I decide to take off the background. So it just actually, I'm gonna have to explain myself now, Anna. So the reason that I've got the background on is because that particular UFO looks like it's currently drilling into the back of my head, but it is in fact Batman if you look very closely. Uh,
Oh, I can see. Right, it makes sense now.
so there you go. I've got Batman drilling into the top of my head. So for the minute, it's the Batmobile in space or the Batfo. I don't
Can,
bloody know.
can I give a quick what's the word? Oh, I'm trying to think of the word there. A quick
Shout out.
well, no, a quick anecdote about
Oh yeah,
Batman.
yeah,
So
go for it.
episode in the original series of Batman, I think it was Adam West.
Yes,
And it was great, by the way. If anyone's not seen the original
I've
Batman,
got the box
it was
set.
class.
It's it
Have you?
is yeah. I
It
loved it
is
as a
pure
kid, so I couldn't
class.
resist.
Yeah. I mean, the car was amazing. The suits, the color, the acting. It was cheesy, but it was an amazing series. Anyway, episode 33, which many people will be familiar with that particular number, was
Hmm.
known as Fine Finny Eanes, which again it might be purely coincidental, but the letter F is the sixth letter in the alphabet. So FFF is 666. And in episode 33, Fine Finny Fiends, there was a conversation regarding, I think it was something like Batman's grandfather was one of the founding members of the Skull and Bones Society, the secret society, known as the Brotherhood of Death,
Yeah.
which is a real life thing. So if anyone's not familiar with it, it is a real life secret society. Um, so that was quite an interesting little thing. Was it just purely coincidental, or was there some sort of
Do we believe in coincidences these days, though, Steve? I'm not entirely sure that I do anymore.
nah? This everything's connected, mate.
Especially if it's like Hollywood and mainstream entertainment. I mean, say what you like about it, whether you like it or not. I mean, I do. I enjoy my films, I enjoy my entertainment, but
Mm.
there's always been an agenda running through it. The one at the minute we've got is the woke agenda being pushed at us in every single direction, ruining everything.
Mm.
And it is ruining everything. It's distasteful to me, but equally. But saying that, there's always been agendas being pushed at us by Hollywood and like all these film
Oh yeah, of
studios.
course. I mean,
It's nothing new.
if you went down, everything's kind of connected, or there's no such thing as conspiracies or coincidences. Well, I mean, the fact that Christian Bale played Batman in one, I forget which episode or which movie it was, but
Well, we've got
Christian
three.
Bale, I mean,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
seriously, you got three because you've got Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises, which I loved them.
right, okay,
In fact, they're
yeah,
some of
they
my
were very
favorite films. So, but yeah, I know where you're going with this because you did this at a presentation.
yeah.
So,
Well, I
fire
was
away.
just going to say, interestingly, the name Chris or his name Christian Bale. Christian and Bale. I mean, Bale is the Lord of the Underworld, and of course, the Christian is basically the antithesis. So it's the law of polarity, isn't it? And I suppose that kind of does that tie us into the theme of natural law?
Uh, It does. Before you do that, though, actually, can I push our event?
Mm.
Because as far as I'm aware, I mean, Mark Devlin's pushed it a little bit, but I figured before we get into this, I'm just going to give it a quick mention so that I've done a bit of advertising myself. How the heck do I share? Hang on, I've just told you how to share. Now I'm trying to figure it out.
Mm.
There we go. I want to share. There we go. Is that on screen?
Not yet.
We got it now?
Yes, got it
Yay!
now.
Right. I'll do this quick so that I don't want to rabbit on about it too much. But so we've got two podcasts going. One of them is the one that you're currently watching with the Drunken Alchemists, which we've got obviously two different types of episode on here. We've got Fake Awake and we've got the Occult Academy episodes. And on the other podcast series, which I've called it Last Revolution Podcast, which we desperately need some guests to come on there with us, by the way, because I want you to come on there as well, actually. But I'd
All
like
right.
I'd like some well-known guests and some non-well-known guests as well, because I think there's a lot of people that we know that could contribute a lot of good information for that.
Yeah.
So anybody that you know that would like to come on there, you just let me know. We'll get it set up. Right. So we've got an event coming up called Unite the Tribes, and the reason for that is that the Truth Movement, so-called, is neither dealing in the truth nor moving at the minute, which is, I think that's fair to say. We've gone down that many rabbit holes, we've fallen for that many psyops, and we've become completely against each other. We have become a contentious movement that we can't even agree on the slightest things. My example is we've got it's the same as having 150,000 political parties all telling you that they're on the same side and they stand for the same thing whilst all having different policies. It's not working at the minute because frankly, people have fallen down a lot of bullshit rabbit holes. So I mean, that's the best and most direct way I can put it. So the idea behind this is that, as you can see from the lineup, we've got several famous faces on there. Hopefully, they can all turn. I mean, they've all confirmed, with the slight exception of Bowler Hatford. He's got something else that might
Mm.
cause a bit of an issue there, but he's provisionally booked anyway. But anyway, we've got a lot of famous speakers on there, and they've all got their own views, right? Now, the point being is, I want us all to put our own specific views, our own particular rabbit holes, our own particular interest areas to one side for a minute, and concentrate on the bigger picture. Now, to me, the bigger picture is we have a political agenda which is global and it's coming for all of us. It doesn't matter what country you're in, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It's coming for all of us and it's being rolled out as we speak. It's undeniable at this point, and it's everywhere, and it affects literally every single one of us. So the idea of it is, I'd like us all to concentrate not only on presenting fact and evidence-based information that points out this agenda, how it operates, who's behind it, what's going on, what the objectives are, but also to look at a solutions-based approach within each and every one of the presentations to say, well, what can we actually genuinely do about it? Which is where common law, not common law, sorry, my bad. Which is where natural law comes into it as far as solutions is concerned. I mean, again, there's more than one solution. I think that's the overarching solution to everything, as I think you do. However, there's a lot of options that we can use. There's a lot of genuine objective approaches to this that we can utilize, that we can work towards. The only thing is we need a bit of unification. And people say, well, why should we all unite? We're all different. We're all unique. We've all got our truths. We've all got our own. Yeah, okay, I get that. I'm not trying to suggest that we should all have the same collectivist views and that we should all be politically aligned and we should all be related. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just simply saying that there's an agenda being rolled out before us. It's not for our best interests. It is against us, and it's going to cause a hell of a lot of harm if we don't stop it, right? And so we should all be uniting behind the fact that if we don't have our freedoms, we don't have anything. If we lose our freedom of speech, which is under attack as we speak, if we don't have freedom of thought, freedom of movement, freedom of association, then we're not free, right? And so to me, the idea is we'll get these speakers to put across their own research, but without going into psyop territory, without going into, well, this is my truth. No, forget that. Show us what your research is, show us the evidence that goes with that, and tell us what we can do to combat it, right? And so that's the idea. So there you go. That is taking place in a place called Long Compton on Saturday and Sunday, the 26th and 27th of September. If you're not aware of it, you are now because we just advertised it. If you click onto the website that I'm showing you this on, which is nathanlucius.com, or you can put in HTTPS the forward slash bit. If you just type in Last Revolution podcast, that'll come up with the website, or you could also put occultacademy.co.uk in, and it will come up with that as well. So it'll direct you to this page here under Last Revolution, or the homepage. If you want to scroll down on that a bit, you'll get the same thing. And if you want to book tickets, you click that little link there, which takes you to this little shop here. And then so you tick the one that you want, and there you go, your event's booked. The ticket prices at the minute, it's £50 per person for both days. Or if you want to just do one day, it's £30 per person. If you book before September, those prices will stick. So there you go. See if we can get a bit of a follow in there, and see if we can hopefully get a few people to see eye to eye, get on the same page, realize the real threats that we're facing, and work together to do something about it objectively in real time, without petty disputes and squabbles, without being psyoped, without falling down, various, I don't know, disparaging
Yeah,
views of the truth and
I
stuff
think
like
this
that.
is timely because it's basically like you say, it's solutions based, and we're not applying any fluff or nonsense. It's grassroots, truthful information. It's going to be timely simply because there's not a great deal of this going on in the truth community as a whole,
Yeah.
as far as I know or as I'm concerned.
Mate, so right, well, not to name drop, right? So I was talking to Mark yesterday, like Mark Devlin yesterday, about this, and he's had some interesting experiences with truthers lately as well.
Mm.
And I just said to him, I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, this movement's gone toxic. It's stood down and it's gone toxic, and from the sounds of it, he absolutely agrees with me. And it's disappointing when we've got some really good people that are getting attacked by the truth movement because they've got views that differ from theirs or whatever. I mean, okay, well, we attack psyops. Hopefully, we're not attacking the people, but it's we do attack the psyops, and the point of that is we've got a bigger objective here. But even Mark's getting a bit waylaid with this, and it's just, I mean, we all you see, you click on a Truther YouTube channel, I guarantee if you go against them on anything, if you suggest that you disagree, so like I'll give you an example, right? If I was to bring up evolution, there'd be a mass amount of people that'd say, oh, you believe in pond scum and monkeys and stuff like that. It's like, no, I've done the research, but equally, you don't have to agree with me. If you want to believe that the Earth's flat, that's fine, but can we please concentrate on the real problems before squabbling over, like, semantics and beliefs and stuff like that? Like that's the point of this. But anyway, that's what that's about. So hopefully, if we can get a fair amount of people to that, I'm hoping to get another guest to come along as part of this. Now, Ben's put me in touch with somebody that's very well known. Well, I say very well known. I'd like to think she's very well known. I'm not going to name her at this point,
Mm.
um, but she's done some extremely impressive work throughout the last couple of years, and she does deal in truth and fact. That's another thing as well. Since when did truth and fact become evil, bad words that we're supposed to be the truth movement, right?
Exactly,
And
and
when it,
we need to adhere to the truth a lot more often. I think if we're going
Mhm.
to get anywhere, we need to. It's vital.
Yeah. But here's the thing, mate. It's like, so I'll say to people, right, okay, you're saying that you believe in this and you want me to believe in this, and you get quite aggressive with it, or you get defensive when you're challenged. All right, sell it to me. Give me actual fact and evidence, not speculation, not belief, not opinion, not your truth. No, show me facts and evidence. Let me mull it over. Let me process it, and then we'll see if it's the actual truth. Because I'm not interested in his truth, her truth, the other truth. I'm interested in the objective truth. I want to know what's actually going on, not people's opinions of it. And
Mm.
unfortunately, that appears to make people like myself unpopular in certain parts of the so-called movement, um, because we go against the grain. But the thing is, as soon as we start to fall for biases and personal opinion, we've already lost. I don't, well, I do care what the truth is, but ideally, I want to know the truth, which means, show me stuff. Prove it to me. Show me if you're going to say that there's aliens in orbit that are here to help us. All right, don't just tell me that you can remote view it. Give me some hard proof. Give me some stats. Give me some, tell me something that's going to happen, and let it play out. I want to see it happen, right? If you're gonna say that you've remote viewed something from up there, and there's a council of whatever alien race they claim, and they're benevolent. All right, show me some evidence of this. Give me the effect. Show me cause and effect. Where are they? It's stuff like that, and it irritates the life out of me. Right. That being said, I'm going to stop sharing that, and then we're going to have if I can figure that out. Oh, bloody hell.
By the way, 50 quid for 2 days is a steal.
Well, I'd like to think so, but there was one of our previous events was cancelled because we charged 50 quid. Incidentally, on that occasion, we had 10 speakers, and it was sabotaged from within. I won't mention any names, but people are prepared to, I don't know, travel across the world to watch a football match for £3,000, for example, plus airfares, plus food, plus etc., etc. But they can't come to a 2-day conference with some famous names on. All right,
Yeah,
fair
to
enough.
learn information that might fundamentally change their future for the better,
Yeah,
and that of their children and their children's generation.
yeah. So look, I mean, if anyone is in genuine poverty and they want to attend this thing, get in touch with me. I can relate to not having much money. I know what it feels like. I suspect you might as well. If it is a case of you can't afford it, all right, then get in touch, discuss it with me, and we'll work something out. There's options there. I'm not in this for the money, because if I was, I'd be bankrupt anyway. So, but equally, we do have to pay the speakers, we do have to pay for the venue, and we do have to fund it, and we do have to, advertise and get stuff paid for. So, anyway, right, that's that. I figured out how to stop sharing, so I'm going to click that. Hey, there we go. Right,
Here
that's
we are.
me. That's me. Waffle complete. So, Steve, you got a presentation for us?
Kind of. It's a bit disjointed, so to speak, but I'm sure we can kind of, there's some slides, I think, which will help to present the information, and we can discuss it as we see fit.
Yeah, yeah. Stick it on, because I'm going to write. So, right. So tonight's discussion is about natural law, and I know we talk about natural law a lot, but I think we need to do a few presentations on this. I'm in the middle of putting one together myself. It's not done yet, but equally, I suspect there's going to be a fair bit of overlap.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that this needs to be put forward into the public consciousness, because there's a lot of misconception behind natural law. People say to me that they don't understand it, or that there's context missing, or they don't understand how it's the solution to like the world's problems and things like that. It's like, well, okay, let me talk you through it, because when we talk about natural law, there's physical natural law, there's parts of the occult which you can discuss, which is about hermeticism, the laws of the universe and things like that. But equally, the natural law that we're discussing for the major part of this is basically otherwise known as objective morality. We're talking about a moral ethical code, right? We're just talking about a code of conduct, I guess a behavioral standard that, if people can't understand why ethics and morality is important to freedom, or to a better society, or how that affects everybody either positively or negatively depending on how it's used, and it is cause and effect. It's consequentialism. It's thoughts have actions, and behaviors, and actions and behaviors have consequences. If you put good actions and behaviors into the world, eventually there's going to be a good outcome, a good cause and effect to that. If you put bad intention in the world, if you put bad information out there, well, guess what? Things are going to go a bit wrong. If you have a society that's not prepared to stand on principles and morals, you're going to have a problem, and which is what we see now everywhere. I mean, the whole world is now in a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
It doesn't have morality, or it seems to have a very skewed version of what it thinks is morality. But then,
Exactly.
equally though, and I think you'll be going into it anyway, there's an argument between morality being subjective and objective, and you get both sides of the fence arguing vehemently. It's usually the ones that think that morality is subjective. I mean, I have a bit of a problem with that, because it's like, so you're saying there's no definition of right and wrong in society. But again, on your slides, I suspect we'll come to that, and we can prove that there is absolutely an objective element to this. Am I saying that there's no such thing as subjective morality? no, I'm just saying that there is definitely an objective form of that. And of course, there's subjective morality; it's everywhere. But we need to focus on the more important things. Right. I'm going to shut up yapping for a bit so that you can do your presentation. I'll ask questions as we go through it and see if we can, pick a few examples up. But apart from that, I need to wet my throat. So, so I'm just going to say, go for it, mate.
Oh, cheers,
Um,
mate.
can
Well,
you see that all right on the picture? Just like is that
yeah,
as
I
you
mean
need it?
that comes up loud and clear for me. I
Brilliant.
mean, likewise. I mean, if there's any problems with the slides, mate, just let me know. But essentially, this presentation, this isn't anything in particular other than I've literally this. In fact, for a couple of hours, I've pulled off a few slides and bits of information from the Occult Academy on Telegram, which is where some of these slides and pictures and images have come from. And they're in no particular order. In fact, I have had some technical problems where I've had to play around with things just to get this
Oh,
uploaded
mate,
successfully.
didn't you know computers were going to make our lives infinitely easier and less stressful?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
still waiting for that bit to happen.
well, that'd be bloody nice if it ever happens. Like, so far, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can see the benefit in computers and when they work. However, when they work,
Yeah.
which isn't
But
often.
since we're talking about natural law, I thought I'd start off with this little statement by Benjamin Franklin, who was, I think he was a master mason, or he was high up in the Masonic societies, obviously a founding father and president of the United States. But one of his well-known expressions was, "Freedom is not a gift bestowed upon us by other men, but a right belongs to us by the laws of God and nature." Again, we as a collective, you could say, aspire to achieve greater levels of freedom. So, if that's the case, it pays to understand a little bit about freedom and what it is, and where it actually comes from. I mean, the government don't define what freedom is as much as they try to. It's actually as stated by the founding fathers of America, it's something that belongs to the laws of nature. So natural law is the law of nature. But
Uh,
but moving on from that, unless you've got something to add to it.
no, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, apart from backing you up on it, which I absolutely will do. I mean, it's if we're talking about governments and natural law. Um, if the one thing that governments do very well is they take your freedom from you. They don't add to it. They take it away from you. And they're currently doing it now. And again, it's there's no use saying, oh, it's Keir Starmer or this politician or that politician. No, no, it's a global agenda. These are just front runners of it. These are just the faces that are being used to push it to us. It doesn't matter who's wearing a tie. It doesn't matter who's in at the top of the pyramid. It's who's behind the decision making that we need to be focusing on at this point, because the politicians, I think at this point in time, have become irrelevant. We know that you remove one, another one's just going to take their place. And the reason I'm saying this is in the UK, in the United States, all across Europe, definitely in Asia. I mean, look at China and Cambodia and Korea and things like that. I'm not being funny, but they're stripping us of freedoms daily. And to me, that's a direct contravention of all natural laws. They are stealing our ability to
Yeah,
speak, to have opinions, to form opinions freely, to speak to whoever we want, to go where we want, to travel freely. To all of these things are being not just limited and restricted, but now outright removed.
yeah,
And again, I won't go into it in too much in depth at the minute, but let's just consider that governments seem to be counterproductive where freedom and morality are concerned. I mean, they might make laws, but they're all subjective, man-made, morally relative laws that
yeah.
are made upon a whim or made up based on the back of a policy or a political ideology or things like that. We're not dealing with natural law when the government's involved. We're dealing with
Yeah,
policy. We're dealing with control. It's a control
yeah,
mechanism.
exactly. I mean, a lot of these laws, man-made laws, it's a mechanism essentially to drive away our natural-born freedoms and rights in order to exercise some degree of financial profit or gain, or whether it's just uh, profit and gain in terms of their political power and strength. That's another consideration of what we're kind of governed by, and has to be made known a distinction between natural laws and man-made laws. And I mean, this slide essentially does go into that to some degree. As you can see,
Yeah.
we can see that at the bottom we've got man's law, which is inauthentic and artificial legislation, which is essentially designed to favor the ruling class.
Yeah.
You could say it's to profit and monetize from other, the ignorant masses, the human population, the
Well,
human
can I?
livestock.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
can I add to that as well? I mean, if, we often say taxation is theft, which it is, and a lot of people say, oh, well, you've got to contribute to the running of the country and to the infrastructure, and so okay, that's great, but it's not really being used for that anymore, is it? Funds are being, increased, which is now impoverishing people. It's if you look at VAT, which I think is it's still 20% or something like that. I'm not even sure how much it is. I know it's ridiculous at the minute, but you put value added tax on goods and services that goes directly to the government.
Hmm.
Well, but in what way have they earned that? In what way have they produced any part of that product that they are now claiming ownership of?
Yeah.
What right do they have? If I buy a computer or a holiday or a car, anything, right? What right does the government have to a portion of that money? Surely it should be between me and the person I'm purchasing that particular item or service from, right? And if unless the government's got any direct involvement in that particular process of buying and selling or service and production, to me they have no right to that.
Yeah, exactly. In nature, that they have no right to that. Only in illusion do they have a right, or a self-declared or proclaimed right to any the products of your labor.
Yeah,
It's all based on mind control. It's founded in illusion. Essentially, the population needs to be brainwashed in order to accept it because it's actually immoral, and it's, as you say, it's fundamentally based upon violence, coercion, deceit, manipulation, all of which are not good things to establish in any society. And as you could probably say, that one of the biggest leading sort of transgressions, if you like, with tax is it's a product of theft. It's racketeering.
just a bit.
If I was to declare myself the king and then appoint myself 20% of your livelihood, I'm sure, or anybody else's, I'm sure people would have something to say about it. It's like, well, who do you think you are, God? Well, that's what the government claim. They are gods. They are our gods. They're our gods on earth. And we've accepted it. And if we're wondering why we're enslaved, well, it's because we've accepted tyrannical rulers who declare themselves as gods to arbitrate our way of being in the world. We haven't assigned that to the natural order or towards creation because we've ruled that out. That's why life sucks.
Well, don't
So
forget, mate. They've got the divine right to rule. Apparently, I mean, I don't recall them ever having a direct conversation with God or gods or whatever they believe in, but apparently they've been divinely ordained and selected more like, to rule over us because that's how the system operates since I don't know what 4,000 to 6,000 BC. It's been going on, but equally, what troubles me, mate, is that I've got to be careful what I say because I don't want to get kicked off, but. Um, this is a system that could be overthrown easily. Well, relatively easily. I don't mean it's a walk in the park and it's simple, but
yeah,
again, it would require a collected effort of people on the same page, prepared to stand on principle and have the conviction to act in the right way in the right behaviors. Right? This
exactly
this
right.
this could be removed. However, my issue with this is not even necessarily the people in power so much. I mean, it is that, but it's the ones going along with it without question. It's the ones even the ones that will vehemently uphold it and defend it because that's just the way that they think the world works.
Hmm.
Right? So, well, we can't live without a government. We need somebody to make the laws and to make the policies and to run the country. It's like, yeah, really? Do we? Oh, yeah. Well, because without that, you're gonna have chaos and anarchy. It's like, well, okay, anarchy aside, because it just literally means without rulers, but yeah, at the minute we probably would have chaos because we've never not had this system in place. Um, but it's the people propping up the system that are becoming the problem because they're the ones that refuse to consider that actually there is another way.
Yeah,
And it's like it again. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome. You'll defend your captor to the death because you think that they've got your best interests at heart, even though they're keeping you inside a cell, putting you on rations and limiting what you can do on a day-to-day basis.
yeah.
There you go. Anyway, right, I'm going to shut up again. Sorry, mate.
No, no worries. Well, if we look back at the slide to kind of move on to what this kind of portrays, we've looked at man's law, which is at the bottom of the scale, but at the top of the scale, we've got something what we could kind of consider to be divine law, something that derives from a transcendent source, such as the will of God. And again, it's not necessarily something you could say it's not necessarily etched in stone, but it's a notion, if you like.
Hmm.
And again, this doesn't have to mean that there's some sort of religious belief involved in this. This is just, well, if we look at all the other structures of law, so all structures of man's law, such as common law, etc., constitutional law, the Bill of Rights, all of these architectural frameworks regarding law will, of course, assign the divine laws of creation, the God, the will of God, again, whether people believe in God or not, is irrelevant in this case. But this is always assigned to be the top uppermost level of all of these law sort of principles. But if we
Yeah.
look at the middle, this is where we need to be concentrating upon and interested in, so to speak, is natural law. And this is principles relating to morality. And of course, these can be established by means of reason. And then this is where we, as a body of people, such as the truth movement, need to be able to establish this point: reason, logic and reason based upon truth and principle. And
Yeah.
if we're not doing that, what we're doing is we're adding beliefs, we're adding subjective points and probably erroneous notions into the mix. And again, if it's not founded in truth, we're going to lay our principles upon a weak foundation. And we all know what happens if you build upon a weak foundation. Well, something has to give. So we have to, really do deep dives into understanding the mechanism of natural law. So,
Yeah. Just can I? No, no. Actually, finish that. But before we go to the next slide, I'm going to like add to that a little bit.
no, that's all I've got to say on that one.
Fair enough. Right. Can I like so where you've put divine law there? So
Mm,
I can see how this would be a little bit contentious again because it's that thing again where you've got 150,000 different opinions trying to just trying to square a circle if you like, right? So if you're an atheist, um I would say the way to look at divine law is the universe has an order to it, right? It's got there is a physical mechanism to the universe, right? And so this is going to trigger somebody. It doesn't matter what I say, I'm going to trigger one faction or another, right?
yeah,
Gravity is a law, right? Orbits are a law. Atoms are a part of the fabric of the universe. They
yeah,
they they operate on cycles and orbits and magnetism, electricity, things like that, right? These are laws built into to the fabric of reality, the fabric of the universe, right? They affect everything within that construct, as far as we know. I mean, obviously, the universe is a big place. I don't know anyone that's apart from Elizabeth April. Clearly, she's like, she's been all over the place. Not, um,
mhm,
but it's a big place and it operates on a set of principles. Now, the way that I look at this specifically, so I look at God slightly differently. I would say I'm non-religious. I am spiritual. I'm not religious, but equally I'm not an atheist either. So there's a I like to look at things as objectively as possible and say, well, we know that there is a universe. We know that there's an order to that, and where there's order, there's got if you've got atoms and gravity and forces and cause and effect and things like that, then there's something clearly behind that, whether you want to call it a force or if you want to call it consciousness, or even if you want to call it just a mechanistic framework. There is something in operation there that is beyond us, right? It's bigger than us. It's something that everything else adheres to. and it seems to be ordered. As far as I can see, it's ordered. I think there is a consciousness there. I think, again, in terms of hermeticism, if you look at the seven hermetic principles, I think that sums up the universe perfectly. If you want to call it
Yeah,
pantheism, that's fine. I've got no problem what you want to refer to it as. But to me, it's there, it's conscious, it's operating, and it's the bit that people don't like to understand is it doesn't really give a shit about you or me. It just is. It's just doing its thing, and you can't stop it doing its thing. It's there. It's always been there. It probably always will be there in one form or another. And it doesn't really care if you like it, if you dislike it, if you agree with it, or if you disagree with it. It's just going to do its thing, right? And so if you want to look at that as some kind of cosmic divine law, I've got no problem with that. But within that, we are a sovereign, um, sentient species that has consciousness. We can think, we can speak, we can communicate, we can build, we can create, we can do all of these things. And so, to me, with that should come a sense of responsibility, so that we don't just go around destroying things and causing harm everywhere, right? So this is where we bring natural law into it. So we are subject to divine law, but in terms of a sentient species that has developed and evolved to the point where we currently are, then I think that we do have a sense of accountability that we ought to hold ourselves to, so that we don't go around just destroying things and causing harm and suffering and things like that. We should hold ourselves accountable, because if we're going to claim to be highly evolved species, or this special creation in nature, then that does come with responsibility and accountability. And this is all that we're really getting at. I like the colours behind it, by the way, with the green, because green is the middle, it's the half.
yeah, exactly.
Half. It's the earth, right? And so this, if we find ourselves unified and in balance with that, and we can apply a moral code to our lives, and we can improve our behaviors, and we can treat one another with respect and dignity and decency, without trying to con one another, without trying to steal from one another, without causing harm and suffering and death and all of these things that come with that, then the world will be a better place. It'll take a while. I mean, it's, if you want to call it karma, okay, call it. You can if you could say, well, it would have a karmic effect, but yeah, it's going to take a while to adjust. It's going to take a while to balance out. But equally, if you apply this population wide to everybody, if you hold everyone accountable to a moral code that we can all agree is acceptable and objective, and should never be transgressed. I mean, there's always going to be people who will try and transgress it, but if we can hold ourselves to that standard, society will flourish. The individual will flourish. We won't just survive. We'll thrive, right? We'll progress. We'll
Yeah,
evolve, and I mean that in the highest extent of the word. We will evolve mentally, spiritually, physically, technologically, however way you want to look at that word. If we are in harmony and balance with one another, with the world, with the universe, things will improve. I mean, obviously, you can't account for like natural disasters not getting in the way, but societally, there's no downside to that. Anyway, there
yeah,
you go. Right.
good point. I mean, it's no coincidence that the color green is filled in the natural law box, simply because green is the color of the heart chakra on the seven chakra system. Green, why? Because it's also in connection with nature, which is largely green. The grass is green, the trees are green, etc., etc. And there's a reason for that connection. But again, that's kind of digressing. So we'll move on to the
I don't
next
know,
slide.
actually. You're
Yeah.
saying it's digressing.
Hmm.
I like that little effect that you've got there.
All right.
I disagree with that, because can we go back to the other slide
Of
just briefly,
course. Yeah.
in terms of sorry, mate, in terms of the chakras and things like that. If you look at the color spectrum that they use for this chakra system, for the spectrum, right? So you got red at the bottom, right? So we are told, again, if you want to use a religious account, we're told that we are from Adam, right? And the word Adam comes from Adama, from Adapa, which means the man of red earth. It means the man of clay. So the red is the soil, it's the earth, right? So then you elevate up from that, and you get yellow, right? So you could say that yellow is also the earth. You've got a desert, but it's arid.
Mm.
It's in need of work. So then you need a bit of you need to progress from that. You've got green, which is in the middle. It's a balance, right? So you, like as you said, that's your harmony. That's nature in like it's flourishing. It's in harmony. It's balanced. It's healthy. It's flowing, right? You go up a little bit more and you've got your blues, right? Well, you've got a blue sky at the top, right? Again, you can look at
Mhm.
this any way you want. I'm not, people take this wrong, but they take everything wrong anyway. But you've got the blue sky at the top, right? And so if you're looking at this as an elevation of consciousness, what it's saying is lift yourself up from, from the ground and elevate yourself, learn, progress, develop yourself, develop towards the sky, like aim higher, do better.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's just a bit of just the color symbolism in that. I mean, again, I think I've discussed this in the book and a few times
yeah,
in the
sure.
group, but
I'd like to think that many people who are listening in as well are kind of familiar with, let's just say, even the chakra system and how to develop in consciousness, using that as a kind of guideline or a system.
yeah. Anyway, sorry, I just want to point out, probably
Yeah,
haven't done that too well, but
no, that's a
equally, I
great
think
point.
people will
Yeah,
get the gist.
love it. So the next slide again, it's not a massive semblance of order to this, but as we're talking about natural law, well, what is natural law? And I mean, there's several definitions, but this is one definition. Again, I think I've got a few slides with slightly different, you know, definitions on them. But the first one is natural law is a system of eternal law intrinsic to human conduct that can be discovered through observation of the moral behaviors of that society. And what this means, again, in the green box, is when morality declines, freedom declines, and when morality increases, freedom increases. So if there's any truthers out there who are wondering how they can obtain the freedom that they desire, well, that's it. It says it right there because that is known as the law of freedom. And the law of freedom, when morality declines, freedom declines, which is the condition we're in now,
Yep.
a state of decline and freedom. And but when the morality increases, freedom increases. And how do I know this? Well, simply because, as it says there, this can be discovered through observation of the moral behaviors of the society. So the proof is in the pudding. Again, it's probably not massively obvious because this knowledge has to be assimilated and it has to be understood through a sort of an inquiry. You have to take an inquiry into this. You can't just be told this. You have to inquire into it. It makes sense when we develop the philosophical discourse that accompanies natural law and, of course, the occult, which is the body of knowledge which this, you could say, is assigned to. And again, we'll be diving into what that means in a little bit more depth as we progress. But
Well,
I
shall
believe that,
we? Sorry, mate. I was going to
yeah.
say, do you want to make that even more simple than it is now?
Mm,
Right. So when people say that they don't understand it or they can't see how the context applies to us, well, I can simplify that even one step further.
yeah,
Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. That's it. If you can't get head around morality, or if you think it's subjective, or if you don't want to, just do the right thing. And the right thing to do is don't harm anyone else, right? That's it. It's like don't cause harm to another human being. In fact, don't cause harm to anyone or anything unless it's absolutely unavoidable, in which case you've got to take other things into consideration. But do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It's
yeah,
it's the same thing. And if you do that, then the consequences of your actions will accumulate. It'll build up. It'll have a positive effect. People will see the positive effects. Their lives will improve. Both internally and externally. Societally, it'll improve. So that's effect. When they say that they don't think this is a solution, it's like, well, okay, and maybe there's 1,000 different solutions out there that will contribute to the improvement of society, that will contribute to improving our lives, our health, our mental state. Okay, yeah, I don't dispute that. I think there are probably 1,000 different solutions out there, but there's one overarching solution, and this is it. This encompasses everything else. If we can apply whatever we're interested in, whatever floats our boat, if we can apply natural law to it, i.e., correct behavior, good moral conduct, standing on principle, and you apply that to everything that you want to do and everything you're interested in, things will flow, things will balance.
yeah. I
Sorry,
mean,
I've
one
done it again. Just
no,
start preaching
that's
now.
no. This is essential. I think another thing that maybe people are starting to appreciate a lot more is that living in harmony with nature, with the natural world, is actually beneficial. So a lot of people are starting to, I wouldn't say discover, but rediscover things like herbal remedies, things
Yes.
like
Yeah.
organic foods,
Yeah.
some of these natural healing processes, standing barefoot on the soil or on the grass.
I
All
know
of these
you,
things.
you've got someone's attention with that. As if they listen to this, they'll be like, "Ah,
Yeah.
you're talking about me now." I didn't
All
put him up
right.
to that. I didn't put him up to that. Just saying.
Yeah. But the
But
thing is,
equally,
all of these things, and we're starting to discover the science, the truth, the facts, the principles, the logic, and the reason behind a lot of these natural processes now, and how the body functions and improves as a result of living in harmony and balance with nature and what nature provides. What we now need to do really is extend that to understanding the behavioral laws. And that's what essentially natural law is. It's the law that governs the consequences of human behavior. And if we're not living in harmony with the natural laws of the behavioral consequences, well, freedom declines. If we step into nature and follow its laws, which again is discoverable through observation, we can find that our freedom will improve because it'll increase. But here's another definition, and again, actually, I, I claim ownership of this one. And again, I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own arse, but this is my own definition of it. And again, I hope it makes sense to people. But if I'm asked to explain what natural law means in my own words, I call it the governing dynamics of the universe that set the conditions we experience, which is formulated upon the consequences from our collective behaviors.
you
And
wrote that. Did you
yeah,
put that?
yeah,
All right, I like that actually.
I kind of dreamt that one up. And again, it's just a play on words from other expressions of what natural law is. Again, it's just this is how I explain it. But what this goes on to state that moral behaviors formulate harmony, which enables freedom, but immoral behaviors formulate chaos, which destroys freedom. Again,
That's mate. That's brilliant.
thanks, mate. I must
Stick that in the
admit,
next book.
cheers, mate. I, I mean, that kind of lots of these expressions make sense, but some might find a particular expression might make more sense to them. Again, whichever suits. It's all the same thing ultimately. Um, Again, something to pick up on there is collective behaviors because one person's impact upon the world, unless he's I don't know, unless he's somebody like a totalitarian dictator who has a great deal of power and control and influence over other people, can't generate enough consequences to have a detrimental or positive effect, essentially. But collectively, we all can. And if we all collectively agree on a certain standard of behaviors,
Yeah.
because we're all brainwashed into a society that inculcates us into a dangerous form of illusion, which caters for immoral expressions, such as what government do. And again, a lot of people might not fully understand that at this point in time, at this level of their understanding, but hopefully they will do. Then again, we've got to realize that collectively, the society is kind of co-creating the conditions that it is, generating for itself. This is where we can step out of this. If we step out of the illusion as a society, well, what we will find is this condition of freedom will improve upon. Of
Can I add to that as well?
course.
And again, that's brilliant. I love what you've done there. I mean, you redefined it to like from your perspective, and it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, again, it's what you're saying is spot on. Um, one of the ways that I look at this is like if you're take schools, right? If you've got a couple of kids who are, the bully types, right, or the ones that want to cause a bit of trouble and want to cause a bit of chaos, right, and so they do something wrong. And so the teacher steps in and says, right, can you stop that? Can you, behave yourself, consider the rest of the class, be a bit more respectful, be more considerate, right? And the bully's like, nah, you're all right, I'm still going to do my thing. And so what happens then is the teacher's like, right, okay, well, if you're not going to listen, if you're going to keep doing your own thing, if you're going to disrupt the class or bully, the students, or if you're going to steal things from people's lockers or whatever it is, then we're going to have to start and put in place a series of rules so that if you transgress the rules, then you'll be punished, right? But then the problem with that is you can't just apply the rules to the naughty boys. You've got to apply it to all the kids, right? Because otherwise, then they'll say that, well, you're picking on them, and et cetera, right? So then the teachers say, right, okay, well, now this rule's in place because you can't be trusted to act responsibly. You can't be trusted to act reasonably or considerately towards other, right? So now we've got these rules in place. And so then the next day, the next class comes and another kid does something which is, I don't know, so disrupts the class in some way, whatever. And so the teacher once again issues the warning. Can you not do that because you're causing disruption, you're causing a bit of chaos, you might be causing a bit of harm, and you're unbalancing things, right? So there's you're causing uproar in the classroom or whatever, right? And so okay, and so then a couple of kids are like, well, no, we're just going to do that anyway. And so okay, so then the headmaster comes in. He says, right, okay, then I'm going to include extra rules for your classrooms, right? So not only are there, the rules for, I don't know, not disrupting the class, but now you're going to do this, this, and this, and so this is where we start to get limitations put in place, right? This is where restrictions and limitations come in, right? And the more restrictions and limitations that you've got, the less freedom you've got, right? And so then day three, the kids are out in the playground and they're uprooting, I don't know, the bushes, and they're kicking the gates in and they're knocking the fence down or whatever, right? And so the teacher's like, oh, this is ridiculous, okay, now so we've controlled them in the classroom and we've controlled them in, I don't know, the assembly hall or whatever. So, but now they've gone into the playground and now they're causing destruction there. But it's different kids again. And so what they've got to do is, right, okay, now we have to put notices everywhere, inside the school and outside. Don't kick the fence, don't kick the gate, stop uprooting the plants. Consider what you're doing to the landscape. Consider that you're upsetting the balance, that you're causing, you're disrupting things. Right? Okay. So now we've got even more rules to put in place. Right now, you can only go out during this time and this time. Now you can only go on the gravel unless you're playing football. And if you're playing the football, then you need a teacher with you. In other words, enter the authority figures to police you. And so what you find is progressively, the less responsibility, the less accountability that you show to others, the more rules and restrictions are going to be placed on top of that to govern you, to police you, to teach you, and so it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And eventually you're going to have a school that becomes a place of draconianism where you're going to feel like a prisoner. You're going to have fences around you, hemming you in. You're going to have, you can only walk on the left-hand side of the corridor. You can only leave the class every 2 hours, and you have to do it in this slot. You can only use the books that are on the shelf with the red label, right? Things like this, right? And so this then builds up to a system where effectively you've not acted compassionately towards others, you've not acted with consideration towards others, and the consequences for your actions then is that not only you are getting restricted and losing your freedoms, but you're causing the restrictions and limitations on other people as well. And that, to me, would be an introduction to how you define natural law in terms of objective morality. And the simple solution to this is that you could say that it doesn't even begin at school. But just bear with me here, right? You could say that this goes back to the parents, right? If the parents taught all the students a strict moral code and brought them up in adherence with that and said, look, you've got to consider the wishes of others. You've got to consider the impact that your behavior is going to have on the other kids. You can't just go around hitting them. You can't just go around stealing the shit. You can't go around running around the corridors because right. Just have a little bit of consideration for others, right? And if society reinforced that as this is the right thing to do, and if you do things like this, then you'll find that actually you'll have a lot of relative freedom, right? You will have the freedom to get up out of the class and go to the toilet when you need to. You won't need a hall pass. You won't need to actually, a code to get in and out the school gates. You won't need to have permission to have a locker with the secret security. Right? It gets ridiculous, and it's like, right, well, the way to do this, the way to resolve this, is to teach the children a moral code to begin with. And it's all
Yeah.
right teaching, 20, 30, or 40% of the kids in the school the moral code before they get there. But I really, that's not going to work, because you're still going to get, even if it's just like 10% of students that are rowdy or bullies or disrespectful or whatever, even if they've got behavioral problems that they need a little bit of help with, that's going to bring everything else down. Right. So because of, I don't know, a few bad teachers, a few bad parents, or a couple of people in the community that have let them run, it doesn't matter. Whatever the cause for that behavior being off needs to be remedied before, ideally, you even get into school. So if you equate the school to society in general, it's just, again, if you go into this with a sense of respect, a sense of consideration. And it's that old biblical saying, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. It's basically respect the rights and freedoms of other people. Don't take what doesn't belong to you. Don't transgress. Don't trespass on on other people's rights and freedoms, and effectively don't trespass on other people's sovereignty. Right? That's it. But not just that, but understand why you're doing it. Why are you being asked to comply with a moral code? And it's not for other people necessarily. It's for yourself as much as it is anybody else. It's because you would like to remain relatively free. You want the right to be creative, and to not ask for permission to do things, and to be able to arrive and leave freely because you need to. As a it stands to reason that with that kind of responsibility, with that kind of principled outlook and approach, with good behavior, and I don't mean, be a good boy. I mean, just do the right thing. Then what you find is you can be free and happy and creative, and all of these things will come through it. And again, another analogy, if you want to take it a little bit further, is I don't know whether you watch the Harry Potter films, or watched or read
No,
the books.
I'm not that into them, to be fair, but I'm aware of them.
Right, okay. I'll just briefly. I mean, I like them, but they're all right. But there's a point through the series of films. I think it's like the fifth one there, where basically the bad guys are in charge of the school, and they bring in all of their teachers. They bring in the draconian teachers, the ones that have got an agenda, the ones that want to have order and rules
Yeah,
and all of this. And so what they end up doing is that every single thing, it's got a rule attached to it. They're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to do that. So what happens is there's an underground rebellion occurring, so that the students that want to combat that, they gather together to teach themselves the things that the teacher should have been teaching them, but they can't, because they haven't got the freedom now to go and enjoy it, and to be unharassed and things like this. And so it just gets progressively worse and worse and worse, until the school just becomes a prison, effectively. And it's horrible. But if you look at, for anyone who is familiar with Harry Potter, if you just look at that film, look at the consequences of that, and that's what we're seeing here. So just again, just to bring it down to its most bare, simple form, what we're saying is, be decent, do the right thing, and that's it. And just be aware that cause and effect dictates that your actions, your thoughts, your behaviors come with consequences. You put
yeah,
negativity out there, negativity is going to come back at you. You put positivity out there, positivity is going to come back to you. I'm not saying it's directly proportional to karma, because it's not. Sometimes good people get bad things thrown back at them. But I'm
yeah,
saying, in the aggregate, society wide, as part of a greater collective, it will improve things.
yeah.
If you can't be, if but now, sorry, I know I'm ratting on a bit, but the other thing, you look at governments now, and they're taking our freedoms, they're censoring us, they're telling us that we need digital IDs, we have to present our passports to look at a website. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? And this isn't going to stop and slow down until people just say, no, we're not doing this collectively, because you
Yeah,
can't force us. Collectively, you can't bring this in. If we're approaching this as individuals, and little me, that's it, we're finished. Government
yeah,
wins. But the
yeah,
problem is, they're now treating the population like children,
yeah.
because
Exactly.
we're acting like children.
We're spiritual children, and this
Right.
is this is something. I mean, these analogies that you've given are excellent. I mean,
Thank
if
you.
we were to, I mean, even if it means we have to meditate on kind of on what you've just said there, so we can kind of assimilate this in a deeper perspective. It is logical. It is, and
Yeah.
it's we can observe this happening if we take the time and the diligence in order to see it. We can see the social dynamics of how society plays out. And again, as you say, governed upon the consequences of our behavioral choices. And teach, if we want to become spiritual adults, we need to quit being spiritual children and not just teach children about morality, but we need to re-educate ourselves on some of the principles. Again,
Yep.
some of the principles that hopefully we'll cover, and certainly we'll recommend other sources of information which go probably into even greater detail, which hopefully we'll recommend during the course of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll add to that again,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. None of us come into this world knowing how this works, right? Which means that we are dependent on being taught this, or at least being led by example, right? So, and if there's nobody to lead us by example, because nobody's got a clue anymore. And we did. I would say, I mean, especially compared to now, we had a relatively moral society going back to I don't know, the 50s, 40s,
Mm.
50s, 60s, things
Yeah,
like that.
compared to now, for sure.
Yeah. But nobody comes into this knowing all the answers, unless you're Elizabeth April. Clearly, that's a different matter. If you don't know who Elizabeth April is, just brace yourself. She's nuts. New age extremist. Um,
Okay.
but the thing is that a lot of the ideas, the ideologies that we grow up with, right? As kids, as teenagers, we get a lot of ideas going through our heads. We get, I would say, a sense of entitlement that we should be allowed to do this, or we're okay to do that, or we should be able to act as we want without consequence. It's like, okay, you go through the early parts of your life with that mindset. I'm going to do what I want. Nobody can stop me. Well, you think you can stop me doing that? I'm going to rebel against it. It's like, and so we develop, I guess, this internal sense of, I'm not going to call it morality, but um, an ideology, right?
Mhm.
We get it into our heads that we're right and everyone else is wrong, even though we haven't really done the work, we haven't really investigated things, we haven't really looked into it, we haven't yet had the chance to look at the consequences of our actions and to look at the outcomes, right? And so eventually there's going to come a part where you're like, well, actually, my behavior does seem to be the common denominator in terms of, like if say, for example, if you keep upsetting people, well, you can look at that in two ways. You can either say, well, people are easily offended, or I'm offending people too easily, right? It's so which one is it? And so eventually you're going to say, well, okay, it could be other people being easily offended, but equally, have I really looked at my own behaviors? Because actually, this does seem to be having a negative impact. It's like you use the example there about organic food and healthy ways of living and healthy lifestyle, diet and exercise and things like that. If you take care of your body, and again, you can apply this to your mind and your spirit and your emotions, right? If there's good input, if there's good actions going into that, if you're caretaking well, it'll show. You'll benefit from that. You'll become healthier, right? And it's the same thing with natural law and morality. The healthier it is, the more balanced it is, the more things will flow, the more easy it's going to be. Things will develop quicker. You'll flow through life quicker. You'll be able to lift things. If you've got a problem, you'll be able to approach it better and come out of it stronger. There's so many ways of looking at it, and so to me, I don't understand what the disconnect is. I don't understand why people don't understand this. And
I personally think there's a lot of mind control to overcome, and
there is,
I think we're all kind of we need to get over ourselves in a sense, because I was massively mind controlled.
yeah,
I to
mate, we
do the
all were.
job
I
that
mean,
I used to do.
yeah,
Yeah, but society are massively mind controlled, and no
yes.
matter how intellectual or intelligent you may feel, or how you might feel, well, mind control doesn't affect me. No, it has, because we've been inculcated into a religious disposition, into an ideology which does not fall into sync with nature. We've got to realize that and come to terms with it and get over it and do whatever work that needs to be done to overcome that. The first thing we need to do is accept that as a condition.
Yeah.
Accept it and get over it.
Well, here's the thing with that. I mean, I know you seem to beat yourself up over the military the same way that I beat myself up over past mistakes that I've made. And again, it's because we've come out of it the other side. We've done the shadow work. We've looked at ourselves. We've done the introspection, and we've gone, oh, actually, we're either the problem or we're contributing to the problem, right? And so the only way to remedy that is to change our behaviors and to change the way we look at things, change our perceptions, change and therefore change the world, right? To go with that. And it can be a difficult process because you do need to look at your own actions and behaviors,
Yeah, yeah,
in line with that. And yet it can be done.
yeah, exactly.
You've got,
I don't necessarily beat myself up over it because, like you say, I've done the shadow work and I've come to
yeah,
terms with it all. But I will use it as an example because for me, there's probably if the police or the military, for example, are probably the best examples of how a person can become heavily brainwashed and indoctrinated.
yeah.
But society's only a very small stone's throw away from that same position. Again, most people will obey authority without question when
Because
given
but
some sort of order.
again, mate, but they've been trained to do that. All
Yeah.
their lives, including you and I and everyone in this country, has been brought up I guess, respect authority. But it's not even about respect. It's more about fear and
Well,
compliance,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
You don't oh, that's the police and they have power over you. It's like, well, okay, but what if I'm not doing anything wrong? Oh, well, they still have power over you. Why?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, why do we need police? Again, it goes back to the whole child mentality. We only need policing because we're being naughty boys, right? But if we had a sense of morality, we wouldn't need the police.
yeah.
But anyway, it's not about that necessarily. It's just when we talk about well, I don't know, the military or things like that. I can see some benefit to that because actually, ironically, it does teach you discipline. It does teach us
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
self-control and things like
yeah,
that. But equally they're only teaching you that so they can control you for other means. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's like they're redirecting you for their agendas and their purposes, and it's like, well, it sounds good on the outset, but until you realize you're being used as a pawn in someone else's game.
yeah. But it's
But
just another aspect. Again, this kind of ties into natural law to some degree because the law of polarity,
yeah,
is an aspect of natural law, and of course, there's like one extreme to another. And
yes,
again,
yeah,
the occult, which is something we talk about a lot, the occult is a toolbox, and those tools can be used for good or bad purposes. Again, it's polarity. It's
yeah.
from one scale to another, and it depends. Of course, the intermediary in this equation is the person in the middle who decides upon the course of actions. We decide. We decide if we want to use these skills, these tools for good or bad purposes. And again, if you explore the concepts of good and bad, right and wrong, and deep dive into that into a little bit more depth, again, this is something society lacks simply because we've been geared and steered away from having that understanding of morality, of the concepts of right and wrong and good and bad. And we're being, of course, indoctrinated into sort of religious type sentiments over what that means. To again, as part of that indoctrination process to steer us away from the spiritual gold, so we remain as spiritual children. And again, if we remain as spiritual children, even in adult bodies,
Yeah.
we will then need somebody in authority to become our spiritual parents to get offer that spiritual guidance because we lack it or we've forgotten it or we've rejected it.
Are you familiar with transactional analysis?
No, but I think did you not recommend a book to me which explained that in a little bit more
Yeah,
depth?
I've got a couple of books to recommend. I
All
mean,
right,
yeah,
okay.
no, seriously, I've come across a couple of good ones lately. So right, in simple terms, it's what's referred to as a parent-child or parent-teacher relationship, right? So it's like um, what the way that they look at it is if you're a child, you're or in that mindset, you're subjecting yourself to your authority figure, which is your parent
Yeah,
or your teacher, right? So the idea of the parent or a teacher to a child is to teach them responsibility, teach them skill sets, teach them how to think, teach them right from wrong, things like this, right? And so the child looks up to this particular authority figure and as if they're being led by them, right? So the idea is to set the example. But unfortunately, this then gets applied society-wide. And so we still get transactional analysis. We still get this parent-teacher, sorry, the parent-child or child-teacher
Yeah.
relationship, which is basically you go to school, the teachers are now talking down to the parents because they're a
Mm.
perceived
Yeah.
authority. If you go
Yeah.
to work, you've got this, you've got parent-child with your boss. You've got parent-child with your co-workers, even sometimes, just because they're a rank above you or promotional level above you, you've got that hierarchy now, which is so now you're constantly in this matrix of someone's always higher than you, someone's always got the authority over you, which then puts you down, puts you in your place, and that goes on. And unfortunately, some people that have this higher position in the hierarchy misuse it. They
Hmm.
don't understand it, which means that some of the people in the child position that shouldn't really be in the child position, it could be your peer, it could be, you could be someone
Yeah.
else's boss and still be treated like a child by your employees. I mean, it could be that
Yeah.
inverted, right? But to me, this is something that's got massively out of balance. It's like, well, we've taken it now, so that again, taking the child mentality or the an immature mindset, we've effectively created ourselves a nursery and where the children running wild,
Hmm.
and of course then we're going to have authority figures left, right, and centre trying to police our behaviours.
Hmm.
Again, you can apply that to psychology in relationships and to if the idea behind transactional analysis, or at least the way that it was explained to me, is that if you're in a relationship with a peer or with a partner or something like that, the idea is to treat each other as equals, right? To see each other eye to eye and to not try and overpower that person or to not
Hmm.
undermine them or to not disrespect them. The idea is to see eye to eye. That way, the relationship flourishes. It becomes a healthy dynamic. It's a balanced dynamic where you're both treating each other as adults. I mean, if where a child's concerned, yeah, you treat them as children because you're supposed to be setting the example.
Yeah.
But in society, if we could apply transactional analysis um, to society wide, if we could all see each other eye to eye and be respectful and treat each other with dignity and good behavior and be considerate, that again, this is all part of natural law. Things would flow easier. But that's not what we find now. What we find is dictatorial. They're dictatorial even. God, I swear that's just cordial. um, but it's everywhere now, and it's so hierarchical now that it's just again that's not balanced. That's not seeing each other as equals, and yet
Yeah.
we're told by the agenda that we must treat everyone equally, and everyone's it's supposed to be uh well, you know what the agenda is, but it's just but it doesn't work that way. They're
Yeah.
actually their behaviors are not matching their words. Their behaviors are not matching their policies. What they're
Yeah.
actually telling us is absolutely you need to be unequal. Absolutely you should be biased and discriminatory to other people. Absolutely, but their words are saying something different to their actions and behaviors, which obviously that's gaslighting. So that's a whole different.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, this also applies to the natural law concepts where, I mean, all men and women, all people are created equal under the eyes of God, so to speak. Again, whichever definition you prefer on that. But it it's also about if we don't take ownership of our own minds, well, somebody else will take ownership.
Just that.
And it also ties in slightly, again, I don't want to digress too far, but it also ties into the understanding of social Darwinism, which again is rooted in Satanism, a
Hmm.
concept in Satanism. Why? Because we're basically lost fact of or lost the understanding of the fact that all men are created equal, and we've created a social hierarchy where not everybody is equal. Some are more equal than others.
That's
Again,
communism for you, isn't it? We're
yeah,
we're we're all
and
equal,
it
but
is.
some are more equal than others.
Yeah. Should I move on to the next slide?
Yeah, of
Because
course you can,
I've
mate. Yeah.
moved on
Sorry,
to the
sorry.
next. I've moved on to the next drink. I've now got an over 18s apple juice.
I like Copperberg. Unfortunately, I know it's supposed to be the Drunken Alchemists, but I like the alcohol-free version of that. It's
Oh, I've
quite
never
strong.
had it. I didn't know they'd done an alcohol free, but by the
It's
way,
re- it's it's
again,
really
just
nice, but it makes you piss a lot. So
all right. As
anyway,
I've
sorry.
probably mentioned on other shows, I don't drink very often. I tend to just drink on
Mate,
this
that's
platform
that,
for some
that's the
reason.
irony of this. I mean, usually when I drink, it's with you. But there you go. So I guess social drinkers, but equally, I don't like getting drunk. So it's like I
Yeah.
don't like the so I'll avoid getting drunk at all costs. I mean,
Oh, I haven't done that for a long time, but
yeah, it's
just
horrible. And again, you're talking about here, like, taking responsibility for your own actions. If we can't be trusted to not get ourselves inebriated and
yeah,
out of our heads, then really should we be trusted with alcohol?
yeah,
And I'd like to think that after I don't know, late teens and early youth, that you kind of learn that lesson relatively quickly and realize that you're being an absolute knob when you're out your face, and that
yeah.
only bad things happen and occur because of that. And so again, it's ironic,
Ag-
isn't it? So
Again, not want to digress too far, but I kind of take a similar stance to Mark Passio, speaking about being inebriated, but he claims that more people should get stoned because it's probably the only way that their mind is going to become more pliable to understand and accept aspects of the occult in greater detail. So I kind of stand with them to a large degree on that. But moving on.
well, actually, hang on before you do leave that
All
one
right,
on. No, leave that one on there. But
all right,
but
Matt.
so I mean that's an interesting one because there are, I'm going to say, substances and compounds out there so that we don't get into trouble from the
Yeah,
YouTube police. That do that it does assist in broadening your mind, right? So there are things out there that I've taken in the past, that have helped me to change my perceptions.
yeah,
Again,
I
I've not,
agree.
right, and it does allow you an altered perception. It doesn't, and I'm not about getting completely off your head or anything like that. But it allows you to go inward and kind of untangle it a little bit. And so,
Yeah,
as much as I'm not advocating for anything, yeah, I can understand the level of that, especially if it's a substance that's not necessarily going to cause you harm. And again,
yeah,
that could be subjective as well, so I've got to be careful. But yeah, there are things out there that I've used myself that have just kind of allowed me to see things differently. But
mm,
then the problem with having an open mind is, and it is great. I'm all for having an open mind. But the problem is, some people, it's like they kick the door open that wide that they don't know how to shut it,
yeah,
right? And so everything flows in there, right? And this is where we get another problem, which is if your mind is wide open and you've got nothing there to guard it for, you need a guard in the front of your brain. Go, I got not you, not you, not you. You can come through, right? It's that. And a lot of people have no idea about discernment. They've got no idea how to judge right from wrong, good from
yeah,
bad, truth from fiction. A lot of people don't even know the difference between opinion and fact, right? And
yeah,
it's so there is the extreme level of that. Is if you have an open mind by all means, but guard it a little bit.
yeah. I would say you've got to let your hair down occasionally, but
Yeah,
you've not don't let it get into your eyes and block your view.
that's brilliant. You need to put these quotes in the next couple of books, man.
Hey,
All right, I'm
speaking
going to
of
shut up.
quotes, should we go into natural law? And again, I mentioned Mark Passio, who's probably, I would say, and I'm sure you'd probably agree,
Yeah.
is probably the world's greatest educator on natural law,
Mate,
in
I
my
think he's one of
opinion.
the world's greatest educators on a great deal of things, to be honest. I
Yeah.
wish to God, and I know we sound like the Mark Passio fan club, but I wish to God people had just look at
To
what
be
he's
honest,
presenting, you know?
he's got the full, if you, he's got the full information that anybody needs to understand life and how to navigate it. I,
Yeah.
from his natural law presentation, which is 8 hours long, to his 10 hour long shadow work seminar, and all the other things in between. I mean, to me, the guy's a living legend.
Well,
I,
he is, but he triggers so many people for so many different reasons, and it's like, well, yeah, but the only reason that he's triggering you is because you're one of the ones that hasn't done the work that you need to do,
yeah,
which means that you are exactly the kind of person that needs to listen to what he's
yeah,
teaching.
I would wholeheartedly agree. I mean, for me, the entire truth movement, if you want to understand how to escape tyranny, watch everything that Mark Passio's got to offer and follow it. That's it. Problem,
So
reaction, solution.
I want to add to this as well because I've been thinking about Passio and the work that he's done. Because I came across Passio the same time I came into contact with like Jordan Maxwell and Santos Bonacci and things
Yeah,
like that. And I've been thinking, well, it's as much as you know, those people have brought some very good works into, you know, especially in terms of the occult, or mystery teachings and things like that. Oh, they've got some good information. However, they've also got some not so good information too. I'm not going to, you know, go into that because I don't want to go into that. But
Yeah,
but when you contrast that to Mark Passio, he's not actually presenting anything that can't be proven, right? It's
yeah,
not theoretical. So what he's doing, he's not presenting you with rabbit holes. He's not presenting you with theories. He's not presenting you with false narratives or anything like.
yeah,
He's literally giving you a psychology lesson, um, which is and it's probably the best psychology lesson in the world ever, right? And again, I know we
I
sound like
would
the Fight
agree.
Club, but look at this stuff that you've got on screen. You know, he understands this. He's clear with it. He's precise with it. He's done the massive background to go with it.
Yeah,
He's not lying to people. He's not deceiving people. He's not trying to convince people of anything. He's not trying to sell them anything. He's just saying, look, this is the truth. This is how it works. I need you to understand this and then apply it. You can check me. You can fact check me. You can background check. You do what you got to do. You will come back to me and you'll see that the stuff, the information I've presented to you is factual, is evidence based, and is objectively the truth, right?
yeah.
And he's not a conspiracy theorist. He's not
No,
a
not in the slightest. In fact, I would actually say he's essentially solidified truth and principle and applied logic and reason in order to obtain it.
yeah,
And his works and his presentations actually prove that. I mean, for example, I mean his definition, and again, this is his own definition of natural law, which is, as you can probably tell here, is pretty concise.
yeah,
Natural law is a set of universal, inherent, objective, non-man-made, eternal, and immutable conditions which govern the consequences of the behaviors of beings with the capacity for understanding the difference between harmful and non-harmful behavior. And again, just to read out on
yeah,
the slide, the understanding of natural law is centered upon bringing human conscience into alignment with objective
brilliant.
morality. That again, I'll read the rest of the slide off and we'll dissect that to some degree.
Yeah,
But
please.
conscience is the definitive knowledge of which behaviors are rights, simply because they do not initiate harm to other sentient beings, and which behaviors are wrongs because they do initiate harms to other sentient beings. Again, if anyone's new to that terminology, please, read out at your own leisure, come to your own, internalize it so you can fully develop it and understand it, because that is defining natural law. To me, that's chiseled in stone. You can't
Yeah,
get a better and more descriptive kind of a description than that. I mean, if we go by the fact that it's universal, that means it
yeah,
applies to everything, the entire universe. It's not just dependent upon which country you live in, or which piece of land or which piece of dirt you
yeah,
inhabit. Inherent, it's inclusive to everything and everyone. Objective, that means it's based and founded upon fact and truth. It's
yeah,
non-man-made, speaks for itself. Simply, if it's not man-made, it's a product of nature, it's a product of creation. It's eternal, it means it lasts forever, and it's immutable because it cannot be broken. It cannot be broken without consequence, I should say.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, in a way, it can't be broken because it's always going to have consequences,
yeah,
right? But equally,
exactly.
yeah, you can transgress it, but then there's going to be a counter to that. There's going to be a
Yeah,
reaction to it.
exactly. The
So
law of
it's
cause
yeah,
and effect proves
yeah.
that.
I mean, I've got to be honest. I mean, reading that, and I've read it a few times, obviously, because I've seen his presentations many times. But I mean, I'm almost jealous of the way that he's phrased that. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect in the way that he's put it across. It's concise. It's simple. It's elegant. It's got everything in there. And so to me, I mean, the bit that sticks out to me on that is conscience, which is perhaps a word that I've missed so far in this particular discussion tonight.
Yeah,
It's acting with conscience.
yeah.
A
I
lot of
mean, if
this,
you look at
yeah,
that word in itself, if you break that down, it's essentially means to know well together,
Yeah.
to know together. And another way, and again, Passio explains conscience as being common sense. And isn't it funny
That
that
as well.
common sense is it's almost like a dirty word? Oh, common sense, it doesn't exist. Well, yes, it does if you apply logic, reason, truth, and principle to a wider society. Common sense becomes pretty much part of the way
Yeah.
that that people will operate upon.
Do you know what? In line with that, this is where philosophy comes into it a lot of the times.
Mm,
There's a lot of philosophers out there, but my favorite two are probably the two that everyone's heard of, actually, funnily enough, which is Socrates and Plato.
hmm.
Not so much,
Okay.
not so much a fan of Aristotle's stuff, but
Yeah,
Plato
yeah.
was very, very much aligned with this. And
Oh, yeah.
Socrates died because of this. He died trying to get people to question things and to understand things from a logical standpoint. And so, if they understood this in 426 or whatever it was BC, right, and
Mm,
before that, I suspect that if they had an understanding of this and society took no notice then. Well, okay. Well, we had, there were city states and fine. So the scope of influence was significantly reduced. But then they wrote
mm,
books. People read the
yeah,
books. The book spread like wildfire in the Renaissance, right? So they knew it. They understood this.
yeah.
Um, what's missing from this? Like, what's the disconnect? I
Well,
seriously don't understand it.
I would only say that society's been deliberately dumbed down to reject and forget this
Yeah.
these fundamental truths. Because as a society, we believe we're kind of arrogant in a sense because we believe ourselves to be modern and therefore more intelligent than our predecessors. However, I would argue that we're actually dumbos who are living in a delusion compared to probably the wise men of the past.
Yeah,
And
just a
again,
bit.
this is nothing new. This is eternal. It's immutable. It's inherent to nature. Therefore, the wise men of the past have picked up on the same conclusions that we're kind of bringing forward now. This isn't anything new. And again, I, I don't want to keep paraphrasing Mark Passio, but he uses the expression, there's nothing new under the sun, because this isn't
Yeah.
nothing new.
Do you know what? Sorry, I'm as you're saying that there, I'm looking at the justice card there.
Mm.
And if you want to look for a hermetic symbol that's got everything in one, oh, it's pretty got it. It's pretty much got it in there, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So it's
for
got
sure.
polarity, it's got balance, it's got mind, it's got sovereignty. I know
Yeah, the
these are not
crown
necessarily a
is the
principle.
yeah, the yin and yang, the night
Yeah,
and the day, the
yeah.
polarity. It's got
I mean, it's even
everything.
got gender in there. It's got
Yeah,
cause and effect. It's this it's yeah. That's a brilliant card actually. It's
yeah, it
kind of
is, isn't it?
mesmerizing because I'm just looking at it thinking, wow, the symbolism in that is amazing. You
Again,
know.
for anybody who's kind of new to the occult, well, symbology is massive. It's a massive. It's almost centered upon what the occult is about, and it's about, a picture paints 1,000 words. Yeah, I would actually say the pitch occult symbology paints 1 billion words. But if we're not attuned to the language and the nuances from it, then we don't necessarily accept it at first hand. We'll have to look deeper into it and analyze it. And when you do, you realize that it's revealing the cosmos. It's revealing everything.
It is. I mean, I recently got a book. It's a library book. Unfortunately, it's flooded in forgot the word now. Down south, Glastonbury.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've got a library book from the Glastonbury bookshop. It's like an occult bookshop,
Mm.
and it's I don't know whether people can see me on screen, but it's thick. It's a massive thick book, and all it is occult image after occult image after occult image with a small caption at the bottom which explains what it is and what the symbolism is. And a lot of people, again, we've discussed this at length as well, so I won't talk, I won't yap on too much. But a lot of people misread the occult as something that's dark or Satanism or witchcraft or something. It's not. It's just in a way it's an observation of the universe, right? It's an observation of the natural world, and there's so many of the genuine occult artworks out there that try and simplify the universe, the world, the elements, the seasons, man's place within
Yeah.
that in so many ways. And it's beautiful artwork. And again, you don't really um you, it's if you just observe it, if you just look at it, just study it, just the image, and like see what it's telling you, see what it's showing you. And it can be often quite simple. The symbolism in it is just it oftentimes speaks for itself, and there's a lot of repetition in there. I mean, we see the contrast between the light and dark, the day and the night, the good and the bad, the male and the female, the justice
Yeah.
and balance and things like that. You're going to see this over and over and over again in occult imagery. So how anyone can say that's a form of Satanism and witchcraft and darkness,
Do
and
you
yeah, it
know?
can be used for that, but equally
Yeah,
that's not what
I
we.
I would say at this stage, again, especially if anyone's followed some of our presentations or podcasts before, if anyone is still of the assumption that the occult is solely about witchcraft, demons and evil and all of that dark stuff, go to the fishmongers, find the biggest cod you can you can purchase, hit yourself over the head with it repeatedly until
I wondered where you were
until
going with that.
it suddenly starts to dawn on you that the occult is basically the tool box that's going to open up how the universe works. And when you understand that, you'll understand your place in it and your own nature and what it is you need to do in order to develop a meaning in life.
Right. I know I said if you need to be sarcastic or to the point, just go for it. But that was brilliant. I, I'm
Cheers,
thinking,
mate.
what is he going to teach us something about cod here? Is he going to teach us something about fishmongers? Oh no, no, no! Just literally pick the fish up
Just
and
hit
whack
yourself
yourself
over
on
the
the
head.
head repeatedly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
I'm a
brilliant.
simple man, mate. I've got to come up with simple solutions.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, right? We don't right. Simple minds. God, I mean, there's a different way. Obviously there's an extreme of that, but a lot of the time we dumb ourselves down by overcomplicating shit, right? And we
Mhm.
don't need to. Sometimes things are just simple. We just need to accept the elegance of the simplicity and not overthink it and not take it and not try
Yeah,
and
yeah.
unravel it because sometimes it is exactly what it looks like, and yet it can teach you a thousand things. And if you're in line aligned with that, and just things will flow. God, I
I
sound like
mean,
a bloody new ager now,
to,
but it does flow.
to add to that, the universe is not going to improve until essentially more people in it understand the occulted natures,
Yeah.
the hidden information that brings us towards the truth. But I'm
Here's
going
the
to put
thing.
the next
Well,
slide
actually,
on
just
while
before you go into that one there, right? So you just meant there, the universe is not going to. How did you phrase it? It's not going to balance itself out, or
it's not going to improve.
it's not going to improve, right? So I'm gonna disagree with you on there. The universe is perfect as it is.
Well,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
So the mechanism of the universe
yeah,
doesn't need to improve. It doesn't need to prove anything to us. It doesn't need to rebalance.
exactly.
I mean, the universe is always constantly rebalancing itself anyway. The thing is that we are out of sync with the universe, not the other
Yeah,
way around.
exactly.
And so what
It's
what you'll
the
find
conditions aren't going to improve for
just
us. I should
yeah.
I should say, yeah, you're
No,
exactly
no.
right.
Again, I'm not. Sorry if it sounds a bit pedantic. I'm not trying to be pedantic. It's
Mm,
just that from the position of that, if you want to look at the universe, if you want to look at God, God doesn't need to improve. The universe doesn't need to improve.
mhm.
We are the ones causing the problems here because of our misunderstanding, because of our ignorance, because of our arrogance, because of our lack of respect, consideration, conscience, all of the things that we've just discussed there. That's not God's fault. That's not God doing that. That's not the universe doing that. That's us. We're the
Yeah,
ones out of balance. The
100%.
universe will correct our behaviors, whether we like it or not. It will rebalance constantly, right? It's always in a state of balancing,
Yeah,
right? And so, whether we like it or not, we are going to be corrected. And what concerns me, mate, is that if we are allowed to be the badly behaved kid in the playground and we're going to go around destroying the playground, then eventually the playground's just going to collapse. And it'll reform. It'll do what it's got to do. You know, it might be a crater, but it'll grow wildlife. It'll grow trees back. But what I'm saying is, eventually, if the universe sees us as a problem that can't be solved, it's just going to remove us. And
Yeah,
by
and
and by
it'll
that,
be for our own, our own volition.
yeah. Again, I'm not
Um,
I'm not trying to advocate for that, but to me it's common sense. You destroy your environment, you destroy your home, you destroy balance, you destroy nature. Well, guess what?
yeah,
You've
yeah,
destroyed
exactly.
yourself.
I mean,
Anyway, right.
essentially, would be well on our way to the human race achieving the Darwinian Award for. I'm sure everyone's heard of that. If not, look it up. Anyway, natural law, and this is according to another occult educator in the form of Will Keller, and I would definitely recommend his work. To be honest, the guy should be certainly in the truth community should be a household name. His presentations are first rate. He's not
I've
quite as
seen a few of his
abrasive.
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's not quite. I was going to use the word abrasive. I don't think that's the right word. He's not quite as brash as Mark Passio is. Not that Mark Passio's, brash all the time, but for some people, you might find it hard to listen to his, you know, the way he talks, etc., etc. Will
Mm.
Keller's a little bit more kinder on the ear to some people. But anyway, his definition of natural law is the governing dynamics of creation, which delivers the consequences of humanity's collective behavior. Natural law is the fundamental substrate of all phenomena, real natural order and objective absolute truth, by which a spiritual mature human strives for harmony and alignment towards evolution. The knowledge
Bang
of
on.
natural law is bridging the threshold from immaturity to spiritual adulthood, whereby a human being has conscience and willfully exercises conscience by moral right action.
Again,
Moral right
perfectly.
action is
Yeah.
a brilliant expression, by the way. That's something that we need to consider. Certainly, members of the truth community, that needs to be at the forefront of our understanding.
Yeah. That's
Sorry,
is
mate,
that
I'll
is
let
that
you.
direct from Will Keller himself then? Is that one of his slides?
Yeah, that's one of his slides from a fairly recent presentation. And I must admit, the presentation was one of the best presentations, one of the best, me personally, one of the best occult presentations I've seen in a long time.
Mm. I
It
mean
was
that's brilliant.
short,
Again, I
concise, and some, you use some great expressions, which again adds a lot of color and fills out the understanding of this.
yeah.
I, I want to say concept, but it's not a concept. It's a truth.
Nobody clearly understands. I mean, just looking at the graphics there that he's used, I mean that's this, again symbolism wise. I mean, it's got a lot of interesting stuff in there. I mean, just the colors, the yin yang, even the Egyptian, the mother and the father. You've got the wings.
Yeah,
You've got you've got the left. He knows what he's doing. I mean, just by reading that. I mean, again, that is that it's any time as good as what Passio has done in the past. Again,
yeah.
it's very very well put that.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I like the last bit. The knowledge of natural law is bridging the threshold from immaturity to spiritual adulthood. This is where we need to be. This is where the
right.
truth community needs to be. I mean, if anyone's triggered by the fact that we've written a book called Fake Awake, and it's clearly a little bit of a slur towards members of the truth community simply because
Mm.
we want to bring people into spiritual adulthood. Well, you're not going to get there until you understand and digest and apply natural law. It's as simple as that. It doesn't work any other way because that's how the universe functions. That's how reality functions. As he said himself, it's the governing dynamics of creation. It's the fundamental substrate of all phenomena. Well,
Yeah.
which part of that is too hard to understand? It's got nothing to do with UFOs, blue avians, all the other new age garbage that people are kind of talking about. It's nothing to do with the plane of effects. It's the plane of causality. This is where, again, these are principles that we need to understand in more detail. And when we do, then we can change the nature of our the conduct of our reality simply because we come into alignment with nature.
Just looking, I mean, again, absolutely well said, mate. I can't fault what I'm looking at, but I want to pull up something there. So he's mentioned the word immaturity,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the things that I think I picked up on it when I was writing a book as well. Is that the part of the problem, not just with the truth movement, but with the species as a whole, is that we are mentally and spiritually, and in fact not mentally and spiritually, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally immature.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that because of our actions, because of the way we treat each other. I mean, again, it's like we're going through growing pains, but we haven't quite breached the adolescent stage yet. We're not
Yeah,
past it. We're still going through it. Um, One of the things that led me to conclude, and just again looking at the word immaturity and conscience, because they seem to be interlinked. If you want to look at the structure of the human brain as well, you take the triune brain and you take it down to its most fundamental survival instincts and its emotional processes and then its cognitive processes. If you look at it
yeah,
like that, we are still in the emotional bit. We're still in the
yeah,
what I guess would be the chimpanzee brain, effectively the primate brain.
yeah,
We are acting or reacting emotionally to a lot of the things that require cognitive input or a more comprehensive approach. We're
yeah.
acting on
Absolutely, I
on the
agree.
feels, right? Yeah, but this is why I've got a problem with things like the New Age, because they're basically saying, well, we know there's a higher element of thinking to this, but we're choosing to ignore it. We're choosing to ignore that because we'd rather feel good, or we want to feel positive. We don't look at the negative. We don't want to acknowledge the darker stuff. We don't want to acknowledge the darker side of ourselves. So therefore, just think positive all the time. Ignore the dark stuff. Hope that it doesn't come and bite you in the arse. I mean, that's I was gonna.
I mean, you're exactly right. As part of the triune brain, the new and again, this you could say this is a generalization, but
Mm,
generally the New Age community are going to stay in the emotional center. They're going to remain in the mammalian brain, the limbic system, the monkey brain. They are chimp-minded.
yeah.
They're never going to stop swinging on the tree of ignorance because they refuse to through their own volition. They need to, we mentioned before, truth and logic, truth and reason and logic and principle. These are aspects of the higher mind, the human mind, the neocortex, the prefrontal lobes. The higher reasoning capacity is situated in that aspect, and we're not going to develop that ability if we are not going to look at certain aspects
Mm.
and consider certain realities, so to speak. We need
You
to
know,
move beyond it.
there's another thing that I want to pull out of this as well. We often speak of cognitive dissonance, which is again, it's a discomfort. You've got two basically opposing viewpoints or two opposing beliefs, which you can't hold them both because they're contradictory
Yeah.
to one another. So the logical process behind that is you have to go with the higher outcome. Whatever the truth is will begin to push back against the lie or the fiction or wherever. So
Yeah.
so it's going to challenge you. Cognitive dissonance is a good thing, right? So I'm bringing this up because I want to, like, a lot of people are afraid of cognitive dissonance because it's like, oh well, I don't challenge my belief, or I don't like the feeling that comes with being wrong or being challenged. It's like, yeah, but this is how you grow.
Hmm.
Right, and I've had a lot of cognitive dissonance, especially since coming into like stuff like conspiracies, natural law, all of this stuff, psychology, all of the things that challenge the way that you look at the world, right? I've had a lot of cognitive dissonance, and every time I've gone through the process, and it gets quite depressing. When you're like, oh God, I'm wrong. I've been wrong all these years. I've looked at it wrong, or I've been saying, I've had a belief which is clearly erroneous. It's the best thing that can happen to the human mind,
Hmm.
because effectively it challenges what you think you know, snaps you out of it. Sometimes, and again, sometimes it's just a case of, okay, if you have an open mind, the cognitive dissonance becomes somewhat easier to cope with, because it's like, okay, well, I'm aware that I could be wrong. Now I just need to convince myself of it, right? Show me where I'm challenging. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, you need to stay in your frame, or you, you've got to stand by your own opinions or stand by your beliefs. It's like, well, okay, that's okay as long as your beliefs are true and accurate.
Yeah.
But if they're not, then you really do need to challenge your opinions, your behaviors, because until you do so, you're crystallized, you're stagnant, you're not going anywhere. You're just going to be a believer. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It's doesn't make it true or factual or or even right. It just means you're deluding yourself.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and,
And
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 so
part of these beliefs, again, they're taking up the brain power that where we could effectively fill logic and reason
mm,
within it. Well, if we're filled with belief, there's less capacity for processing that
yeah,
critical information.
I absolutely like I advocate for everyone to go through cognitive dissonance. I just wish that people would be more open to the idea.
Mm,
But anyway, sorry, I'm reading through there again. It's a maturity thing to me. It's how can you be expected to learn about the world if you can't even figure out your own mind? And sometimes I call it the mind field, right? Because you see, sometimes you're going there and it's
yeah,
it's it's full of traps and pitfalls and biases and
massively, yeah.
you gotta figure yourself out. I mean, it's taken me a long time, but I'm still learning stuff. I'm still figuring stuff out. But until you start the journey, until you're
Again, if
willing to
we
do that,
if more people understand occult tools such as the trivium, you'll realize that, well, the reality essentially is formulated upon the mechanism of the trivium, and it starts off in the mind. And if the mind is held back for whatever reason, because it's held back by core beliefs, and it fails to accept truth and principle, logic and reason, then the mind is not working at full capacity. Again, it goes back to the foundations. If the foundations are not secure, well, your reality, again, your reality is built upon through action, and action is determined by thoughts and emotions. Correct thoughts, correct emotions helps to develop correct actions. And as Will Keller's put it here, moral right action. If we understand morality at a mental level, at a causal level, then
mhm.
we've got greater capacity to apply right action in a physical level, shaping reality to generate the freedom that we require.
You know, just again taking this into account, you mentioned about the book being a bit contentious, which was the whole
Yeah.
that was the idea, and I stand by what I've put in there. And there's a couple of things that I'm going to correct in there. Well, reword maybe. But one of the reasons for writing it, mate, is because I'm looking at things like the New Age movement. Again, I know we take a pop at it quite often.
Yeah.
And what they're effectively doing, what they haven't realized it, a lot of them, is they think they're looking at things from a higher perspective. They're not. They're actually looking at it from a very limited perspective. They're actually
Yeah.
teaching people not to think, not to question, not to
Yeah.
challenge, not to consider things outside of what they believe because it might trigger them or it might hurt their feelings or it might cause them discomfort, whatever. This is my problem with the psyops. The reason I put the seven psyops in there is because I've looked into them. I've fallen for a few of them myself, right? And I've gone into it. I've done the research. They keep saying do your own research. I did my own research. I looked into it. I challenged my own beliefs. Some of them I fell for them, and then I've come out of it and looked at it, and after challenging myself and going, right, okay, I was definitely wrong with that, but now I need to show other people that actually they're falling for this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, if somebody's providing you with misinformation or somebody's telling you not to look at things objectively, they're doing you a disservice, which means they're doing the world a disservice. Because if we're not seeing things from a fact and evidence-based approach, then what we're doing is we're creating a new religion. We're basing it around belief. We're basing it around emotion, right? And that's going to hold us back. It's effectively we're going to stagnate. There's so many people in the New Age movement that have become overwhelmed by this information. They've become so depressed, they've felt so intimidated by it because they don't feel as if they're doing it right or meditating right or breathing right or having the right diet or they haven't met the ascended masters
Yeah.
yet and all of that stuff, right? And what it's doing to them is it's belittling them. It's disempowering them. It's standing them down. It's putting them in a stasis. They're freezing. They're not evolving. They're not learning. they are held in stasis. I can't put it any other way than that. And so the idea of looking at stuff like that was to say, look at your behaviors whilst you're adopting these new age beliefs. And what it's doing is it's actually causing a kind of toxicity. And it really is. I mean, a lot of the people in the new age, they are toxic to the core, but they'll never admit it. According to them, you're the bad one, you're the negative one, you're the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what they're doing is they're ostracizing people, they're judging people constantly. I mean, the new age movement is just one big judgment machine,
Yeah.
telling you how good they are and how bad everyone else is, and how enlightened they are and how stupid everyone else is. And I've got a bit of a problem with that
Oh
because
yeah, me too.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
so
largely they're operating out of erroneous beliefs, which is
yeah,
it's
and this
hampering
and
their own progress.
yeah, this is the other thing. They are spreading misinformation, which is giving truthers or new agers or however you want to look at it, it's giving them a bad name, it's giving them a bad reputation, and unfortunately, it's rightly deserved because they're not using discernment, they're not using correct judgment. I don't mean judgment as in, judging people. I mean like make mental cognitive
Mhm.
judgment. They're not able to look at things objectively and
Yeah,
formulate the right outcomes. And of course, what that's then doing is if it's providing you with you keep talking about the foundation there, it's providing a false foundation. And the
yeah,
more you build upon that false foundation with other falsehoods, when that tower's built up here, it's going to topple, and
yeah.
somebody's just going to come along and push it over, and
I
that's it.
mean,
You
without
don't even
wanting
need a
to,
bulldozer.
yeah, without wanting to digress too much, but to kind of pick on, so to speak, the New Age community
Hmm.
as a whole or in general, by refusing to look at, let's just say, darker things, that's kind of refusing to accept shadow work and to
Yeah,
acknowledge and to grow from the benefits that they
yeah,
would, basically receive for themselves by undertaking that darker sort of aspect.
yeah.
Again, if you're not going to accept that, well, or acknowledge it, well, how are you going to actually apply action to correct it? You can't. It's impossible. So they're shooting themselves in their own foot, but sadly, because of their own erroneous beliefs, that they don't even feel the pain from it.
It's if you think about it from what you've just said there, it's denying reality. That's what it's
Yeah,
denying the truth, and it's an inability to again challenge the it's like they're afraid to challenge themselves. They're afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of not being accepted. They're afraid that actually the world is a pretty dark place at the minute,
yeah, yeah.
and if they're unable to challenge that, that's a bad mind. That's a really really bad mindset.
Yeah, it is. It's ironic in a sense because it's one body of people who kind of you'd expect to want to value betterment in the world, but
Yeah,
they just refuse point blankly to undergo the process and accept the knowledge that will actually assign
yeah.
betterment.
There we go. Right.
So I go on to the
Brilliant
next slide,
slide.
mate.
Brilliant points. It was yeah. Let's go see what we got.
Right.
But yeah, go
Again,
for it.
it's not a massive order to this, but simply when we mention natural laws, well, you we can use the Hermetic principles as a guideline for understanding natural laws because the Hermetic principles literally are the natural laws in the universe or reality, whichever you prefer. But the first law in the Hermeticism is mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental.
Isn't it
Thoughts lead.
just?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, isn't it? In more ways than one. But thoughts lead to the manifestation of all things and events because thoughts create our state of existence and the quality of our experience here on earth. Therefore, be responsible for everything you create by being responsible for everything that you think. Now, the reason or what I'm going to say next, basically, Nathan, is if our minds have been hijacked and
Mm,
then we've been fed, I don't know, let's just say we've been fed a whole load of erroneous garbage or bullshit, well, then our minds have become polluted
Right.
Therefore, the universe or the reality then we then fabricate through our emotions and actions are going to be tarnished with that same level of pollution. So we want to lay the foundations upon a firm substrate of understanding by having a clear mind, having a critical thinking mind,
Yeah.
having one that's based in truth and logic and principles. And again, we need to be massively open-minded in order to do that, which is why things like shadow work, for example, I know I probably mentioned that earlier, but shadow work is an important thing because that improves our state of mind. It allows us to contemplate how we can improve ourselves, and if we can improve ourselves on a larger scale, then the universe will mirror that objective.
Well, you're on about causal factors. I mean, if yeah, again, looking at it from a hermetic perspective or even from a psychological perspective, it all starts in the mind, right? So all actions, all
Mm.
behaviors, all it starts in the mind. It starts with thoughts. It starts with that cognitive process of trying to work out the universe and then interacting with the world around us, right? So
Yeah,
this is your causal factor. It's no use pointing to a leader in history or certain events from whatever and trying to pin the blame on that because we are responsible for our own actions. And until we're able to take control of that, again, it's like you said earlier, if we don't take control of our mind, someone else is going to step up and do it for us. And
yeah,
that's what we're seeing everywhere. And again, you look, we can reiterate the whole immaturity thing again. We're acting like children. That's because we're immature. That's as a species, we're immature. And somebody's therefore stepping up to take the authority over our mind. Because
yeah,
at the minute we can't be trusted to do it ourselves. And we're demonstrating that just by the way we're interacting with it with everyone else in society.
yeah,
And the fact that we can't even see the basics means that we haven't grasped the basics. And
yeah,
this and this and so this is fundamentally step one. I mean, it's step one on hermetic principles, but equally it's also step one on everybody's personal journey. Everyone has a mind, and so everyone is then responsible for their own thoughts, actions, and behaviors. You've got to take
yeah.
control of it. You got to figure it out. So there you go. I mean,
You know, I kind of ironically, and it sounds a little bit counterintuitive in a sense, but many people, I mean, I hear it many times that we need some degree of unity.
hmm.
Now, this is where it kind of gets a little bit counterintuitive because in order to have unity,
I know where you're going.
really
Okay, go for it. Yeah,
what we
I know
need
where you're
is
going.
unity. We need unity and purpose, and that purpose needs to be established in freedom. And freedom is established by essentially people being in direct ownership of their own minds
Yeah,
by establishing moral principle and not infringing upon other people's rights.
yeah.
That means we effectively have to be free thinking individuals. That doesn't mean, I mean, really, if we harmonize with natural law, that means we become the governors of our own minds and our own, our own behaviors, but we exercise the correct judgments so that other people can express their own freedoms without
Yeah.
us tarnishing that.
Effectively, it is about sovereignty. It is about making yourself your king of your own reality. And a
Yeah,
lot of
so,
people I think they're afraid. I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. I think they're afraid
oh, yeah,
of
yeah.
what they might find in there, really.
Brighton, essentially, because I mean, it's almost an alien concept to
Mm.
people in the generation we're living through now. Because when have we ever kind of had had freedom of a large scale? We've been, freedoms have been collectively eroded over
Just a
a
bit.
period of time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and not only that, we fundamentally don't really value or appreciate, perhaps understand at all, in some cases, the fundamental dynamics of the universe, the non-aggression principle and the self-defense principle. That means to be in charge of our own minds, we have to be able to apply these two principles at the correct time and place where necessary,
Yeah.
using ourselves as the governance and the directorship of how that plays out. That means, the self-defense principle, I mean, to be quite honest, that rules out pretty much the entire New Age community.
It does a bit, doesn't it, from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, how
Yeah,
many? Again, I might be generalizing, but you know, rightly so. But New Agers wouldn't think about defending themselves against aggression because it would destroy their sense of bliss. It would be considered to be
yeah.
too dark. Yet it's a fundamental principle written into the fabric of reality. So therefore, you're denying themselves, you're denying oneself of the true mental capacity that we need in order to establish a better universe.
Well, look at what essentially. So what does that mean? If they're reluctant to or don't know how to take care of themselves or defend themselves, that effectively what they're doing is taking victimhood, right? They're claiming victimhood. They are then putting the responsibility on somebody else
Yeah,
to protect them, to look out for them. I'm not saying we
yeah,
shouldn't look out and protect other people. What I'm saying is, if you're incapable of doing that, if you're incapable to stand on principle and defend yourself, and you know, again, the self-defense principle comes after the principle of sovereignty. You can't
yeah,
have one without the other. You know, the whole idea of self-defense is, I am sovereign. I will protect myself. I'm not
yeah,
going to allow myself to be stood upon or trodden upon. You know, it is that. And if those rights are wavered in favor of somebody else being your protector, then you're a victim. You're
yeah,
subjective to somebody else's thoughts, actions, and behaviors, which then again takes away your autonomy, takes away your ability, takes away your skills, and it takes away your sovereignty. Effectively, you've just enslaved yourself.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it stands to reason that if you are mentally or subconsciously a
Mm,
victim, you're in victim mode because of your refusal to apply the self-defense where necessary.
yeah,
Well, what does that make you? Then your emotions and your actions will subconsciously follow suit. And again,
yeah,
you're manifesting, you know, in inverted commas, you're manifesting your own reality through
yeah.
basically failing at the mental level. You need to get your mind fixed. Again, this is where shadow work is essential.
I mean, that's again, it's one of the things I say, get your minds right. Like,
Yeah,
really, like, take a bit of introspection, challenge yourself, challenge your thoughts, your beliefs, everything. I mean, some of them might be right. I'm not saying that you're going to be wrong on everything, but you're going to be wrong on a lot of things.
yeah,
Get your minds right, because what right do we have trying to dictate the lives and actions and opinions of others if we can't even figure our own minds out, our own, you know, our own consciousness, our own psychology? It's got to start there. It is the causal
yeah,
factor. It is the foundation. And if we've got a rocky foundation or an unstable foundation, everything that follows will just collapse. And we're going to find ourselves back at square one. If we're lucky, we might be able to get a second chance.
yeah.
You know, but if we're
So
going to misuse that, then what's the point? You might as well put your shackles on, put your chains on, and you know, hand yourself into the latest slave owner or slave master. You know,
yeah,
just you give yourself over, because if you're not going to take care of your own sovereignty, you're doing harm to others through that alone. Because you're saying it's okay for slavery to be a thing. You're saying it's okay for authority to have power over you. Personally, I don't think it is. You know,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm aware of the time. I think we've gone over 2 hours. Are you okay continuing this and doing a couple more this week, or like into next
yeah,
week?
yeah. That'd be great. Yeah, why don't we do that?
Brilliant.
I
Yeah.
mean, in terms of future shows, I know obviously would like to get Mark Barr on from the Cook
Yes, please.
Files,
Yeah.
and there's another guy, an Australian guy
Yeah.
who we're aware of. Again, for anyone listening in, a guy called Tim Bateman
Yes.
who runs a YouTube, and he's got a WhatsApp group called Conscious Waves.
Yeah.
So check out his things. He does some I would say relatively short videos. Some of them are like 10, 15 minutes long.
He'll
Very
get more traction than
digestible.
we do because we go on too long. So it's probably
Yeah,
using the correct method. But I like this. If people want to snip it, and again, I might do another channel to just do like 10-minute clips of this eventually. But equally, he's got the right idea, I think. So.
yeah. I know we kind of our talks are quite long on there, but I would like to think if people have got that time and ability to listen to us discussing things at a fairly deep dive,
Mm.
hopefully it might have some value to some people. It's
I hope
not.
so. Yeah, I mean, look, the way I look at this, I mean, again, I know a lot of people they do the whole YouTube thing for clicks and subscribers and stuff like that. Look, we're never going to get monetized for this, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
So it's not about the money. If we don't get any more than 100 subscribers, I'm all right with that because at least if we've got a dedicated subscriber base of 100 people that can they can take value out of this and that can they can learn from this and that they appreciate that, I'm fine with that. All right,
yeah,
that's great. 100 will do me because then
exactly.
they can take that knowledge and they can pass it on in whatever way they do it. So
Yeah, and that's the important thing. If people are taking value of this and things make sense, pass it on because that's how we're going to, beat this system, so to speak, is by sharing knowledge that's going to be decisive in battle.
good knowledge though, not fluffy knowledge, not the shit that you don't, decent, good, truth and fact based stuff. This is what as far as
Yeah,
I'm aware, we're not dealing with theories here. I mean, again, I don't like the idea of a conspiracy theorist. I mean, I used to identify as one. I'm not anymore because there's
yeah.
so many erroneous paths in conspiracy
It,
theory land that it's just
essentially, all the conspiracy theorists, if you want to evolve beyond the theory level, you have to become involved in truth and principle, logic and reason, and that has to basically it will point down to the areas of morality. Objective morality is essentially where this points to, because we have to realize that the conspiracies are going to go on forever and ever and
I mean,
ever.
they are
They're
though,
never
aren't
going
they?
to end. They're going to go on until the end of time, and there's going to be, oh, look what's happened now. Look at that symbol there. Oh, look, somebody's doing the one eye thing. Oh, the Illuminati are doing this. Yeah, it's gone on since the beginning of time, and it's going to continue until the end of time. And really, we'll have to evolve beyond that by realizing there's a reason for this, and the reason is to pinpoint people into behavioral consequences of objective morality. This falls under you could say, the category of occult or hidden knowledge, because this is what it all applies to. And if you understand the microcosm and the macrocosm, which is what the occult looks into, which is the human psyche, how the brain functions, how the mind functions, how consciousness functions, and how it also mirrors how the wider physical laws of nature and the cosmos functions, then you realize the full picture. And you realize the conspiracy stuff is just the thing that perks your interest in order to drive you to this information, because this is where the real battle is achieved, by applying occult level information into the world, by improving our minds. And when our minds are improved, when our own consciousness and our own abilities are improved, then the universe will follow suit, because
Right,
it's all connected. I don't know
mate.
if that makes sense, but I'd like to think so.
I think it's a good message to end the show on. To be honest, I mean, again, you've just taken everything that we've gone through and summed it up perfectly. I'll end it here, but just again, so for Tim, I know he's in our Occult Academy group and he contributes a lot of good stuff in there. So
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to have him. Um, Mark Barr from the Coop Files, again, he contributes a lot of valuable stuff, a lot of valuable information. Um, at the minute, I'm going to say knee deep in a book. So I'm trying to put a new book together on let's say false historical narratives and psyops in that particular you know part. So is there any chance whilst you're taking the group to new heights of educational standards, which is brilliant. I love what you do over there. I mean, sometimes I'm
excellent.
just like, it's like I look at it, I go, oh, I'm not doing enough. But if you could have a word with Tim and Mark and anyone else who'd like to join us, and just if you can find out when they're available, I'll happily bring them on, and we can have a three-way discussion on that. And I
Brilliant.
think
Yeah.
I think they've got a lot to contribute. So anyone who is listening to this, if you want to be a guest, get in touch either through Steve, through myself, through the website. It's any way that you can get in touch with us. If you want to come on, if you just let us know and we'll arrange it. So just a little bit of a caveat: Steve and I appear to be night owls with with podcasts. So if you want an earlier slot, let us know in advance and we'll have to mold it around that.
Yeah.
So anyway, mate. Should we leave it there and then pick this up in a couple of days, or even tomorrow if we can, like, if
Yeah, I'm up
that
for that,
suit?
mate. Yeah, because
Brilliant.
this is I'd say it's almost a leading subject of where the truth movement, where freedom fighters need to develop. So yeah,
Oh, they don't
definitely
like
up
it,
for
mate.
that then.
Again, they'd rather get lost in conspiracy land, and
We just need
unfortunately, it's
again, we need to get down the fishmongers, mate. Get that wet fish, get that cod, slap it across their heads. Yeah,
I like it. That's COD Almighty, right?
love it.
Brilliant. Well, I was
Cheers,
going to
mate.
make another fish joke there. I can't bother. It's like, I was going to say they need to. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to. It's going to come. It's going to fail. It's going to be lame. Right. So for now, I'm just going to say for those who've managed to get this far, thank you for watching. If you want to contribute to any of our discussions, or get yourself an ear with us, get yourself in your Cult Academy group. If you don't know how to do that, it's on Telegram. There's no, anyone can join it. Just be respectful over there. Don't try and sell anything because we'll kick you off. We don't need your Bitcoin. We don't need your male
Yeah,
enhancement pills or whatever the hell you do. We don't need that. But if you want to contribute to the discussion and meet a wonderful community of people, learn some stuff about the occult and natural law, get yourself over to Occult Academy on Telegram. If you want to know how to do that, if you go to the website, again, it's nathanlucius.com or occultacademy.co.uk. If you follow any of those, it'll take you to the website, and if you look for Occult Academy, it'll have a direct link to bring you in. Again, all you need is a Telegram account. It's pretty easy to put together. Um, right. That being said, I think they all need to sod off now, don't they? Just,
yeah.
just
Thanks for
sod off.
watching.
That's right. There you go. And we'll see you in the next one. Oh, I always do this. I'm like, oh, just press the button to stop recording. And then there's another button. There you go.
Yeah.
Goodbye.